Hello everyone and welcome to RedisDays 2023. It's a great pleasure to have you here, Redis developers, experts, and customers. My name is Udi Gottlieb and I'll be your host for today. Now I'm sure many of you already know a good deal about Redis. But for those of you who may be new to Redis, let me start by explaining a bit. Today, if you're like me and want to find information about any subject, your go-to place would be ChatGPT. So let's ask ChatGPT, what is Redis? Okay, pretty good response. Many of you probably know Redis for that second use case, Redis as a cache. Redis has been beloved by the community for years as the leading caching technology in the industry. But as you can see, Redis can also be used as a database or as a message broker and many more. And as I share this example, because Redis is actually being used by OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, in the backend to help it reach its unprecedented scale. ChatGPT is the fastest growing app in history that reached 100 million users in only 2 months from its launch. So you can probably imagine their need for scalability. Another major player in the forefront of the AI space is NVIDIA. NVIDIA is leading the charge for AI computing technologies with their GPU technology supporting heavy computing AI workloads and a broad set of libraries to help developers build AI-centric applications around the services. And Redis is at the heart of NVIDIA's reference architecture being used as a feature store and as a vector database for their new AI libraries. Vector databases are a foundational component in the way LLMs or large language models and vector similarity search use cases like product recommendation, personalization, and generative question answering solutions like ChatGPT are being built. We have an expert panel on generative AI and a great breakout session later today on using Redis as a vector database. For those that don't know, vector database is a core to today's generative AI technologies, powering their remarkable capabilities. This session will take you through the next level of detail on this emerging use case. No matter how you use Redis, it all boils down to one key thing: real-time data. Well, let's try to put a definition on real-time application experience and real-time data into concrete numbers. There's been a lot of research that eventually boiled down to the fact that 100 milliseconds of end-to-end response time is considered as real-time experience. That's the timing where you have little to no delay. This is what I define as a state of flow between you and the application you interact with. Now, most of that 100 milliseconds round-trip time is being consumed by the network layer. And that means that modern databases need to respond in less than 1 millisecond to deliver true real-time experiences. If an application doesn't provide you with sub-100 millisecond round-trip time, you start to be distracted with other things. It's very likely that you'll jump and do something else, and once you do, the likelihood of you not completing the transaction gets higher and higher. I want to share an experience that I just had last week as I was preparing to go on a business trip. I noticed my Mac power adapter stopped working just as I was packing for the trip. I didn't have time to order one to be shipped to my home, so I decided to look for one that I can quickly pick up at the store before I leave for the airport. I looked for the 85 watts model and found that they have one in stock in a store a few minutes from where I live. I hopped in the car and drove to that store, only to find out they actually didn't have it. What happened here? First, I really had a bad shopping experience. That was a result of inventory data not being synced quickly enough between the store inventory system and the front-end app I was interacting with. What is the likelihood of me going back to that online store? Not very high. This retailer has probably lost me as a customer. We'll have a session later today with one of our customers, Ulta Beauty, that will go deeper into the role Redis Enterprise is playing in their business, driving real-time inventory management and other key retail use cases. Let's look at a few other examples where real-time data is being used in daily activities we all engage with. You book travel tickets and hotel rooms and pay with a credit card. You are playing an online game. You check your feed on a favorite social media platform, and you check your balances on the different accounts on your mobile banking app. In all these daily activities, you expect real-time experiences, and you use real-time data. But these are not the only examples. We see real-time data use cases in each and every industry and aspect of our lives, spanning from retail to smart manufacturing, to digital mobility, gaming, cybersecurity, hospitality, telecommunications, healthcare, ad tech, and of course, any social media platform that you can think of. Now, many organizations rely on traditional databases that are unable to deliver against those use cases. To deliver against those expectations, a database will need to meet few key criteria. First, low latency. Second, high throughput. Third, always-on availability. And finally, scalability and flexibility. That means to scale vertically or horizontally. And of course, to offer flexibility to deploy that data layer anywhere you need it to be deployed, whether that is on the cloud, on premises, or anywhere in between. And this is where Redis Enterprise comes into play as a real-time data platform. Redis Enterprise supports sub-millisecond latency even when processing millions of operations per second. With 5 nines availability, linear scalability, and freedom to deploy anywhere, on premises, on any cloud, container, or hybrid models. I've talked a lot about the promise of Redis Enterprise and how we've expanded beyond caching into a multitude of real-time use cases. So to give you a closer look at how we're actually evolving our product portfolio, I'm happy to welcome our next speaker, Tim Hall, our Chief Product Officer. Tim, please.
Welcome to Redis Days. I'm Tim Hall, Chief Product Officer of Redis. For those of you who have been working with Redis, you know that Redis began as an open source project more than 14 years ago, and thanks to all of you, it has become the most loved, most used, and most launched database by developers. But for those that are new to the Redis community, you may ask, why? What's the big deal? It really comes down to 3 things: ease of use, performance, and reliability. Redis has been historically known as the best key-value database because its memory-first approach to storing data allows you to access data at unprecedented speeds and scale. It is used for a wide variety of use cases, starting with straightforward caching, but over the years, we've expanded on and built an enterprise-grade, real-time data platform that goes well beyond our roots. Today, we're focused on providing enterprise reliability and scalability across a wide range of deployment choices, from fully managed services on the leading cloud service providers to software, either on bare metal or via containers. And we've significantly expanded the core capabilities of Redis itself, allowing it to become a primary database for a wide variety of use cases. Redis Enterprise is a true enterprise-grade platform built from our open source core technology. But many people wonder, how did we get here? And you'd be surprised how many people come up to me at events saying how much they love Redis, but what is Redis Enterprise? And how is it different? How is it better? So let's dive in a little deeper. What we've invested in to create Redis Enterprise fulfills our vision for a comprehensive real-time data platform. First, within Redis Open Source, we have a core set of data structures which allow developers to easily store and retrieve data. We've extended this in the past few years by adding support for JSON data and probabilistic data structures such as Bloom filters, T-digest, and most recently, support for vector embeddings. But let me speak for a moment about the brand promise of Redis. Redis allows developers to easily and directly store data and data structures that they're working with. You don't need to transform these into tables and columns and rows like in a traditional relational database. And yes, developers were storing JSON documents in Redis for quite some time, but they were converting those into strings, and that conversion needed to take place every time they wanted to work with that JSON document. This experience simply did not meet the brand promise of Redis, so we invested in a native support for JSON to eliminate this complexity and fulfill our brand promise. And we continue to invest heavily into developer experience. What does that mean? We want to make it easy for developers to build applications which can take advantage of the capabilities of Redis. This means offering supported client libraries in specific languages that developers are building apps in. It means offering a companion desktop application that developers can use to help interact with Redis and see how their application is working with Redis. But we're also extending the capabilities of Redis even further. Specifically, we've introduced event streaming capabilities where you can interact with data via a stream. And as part of Redis Enterprise, we're utilizing that capability to introduce advanced data integration options, such as leveraging change data capture from other data platforms to ingest data into Redis. We've also introduced a query and search capability to allow you to inspect hashes and JSON data within Redis. You can define secondary indices, which allow you to move beyond the traditional key value data access experience. Now, I mentioned vector embeddings before. You'll hear a bit more about how Redis can be used in the world of generative AI and vector similarity search in another session at RedisDays. So if working with those use cases and leveraging machine learning, online feature store, or building solutions leveraging generative AI is of interest, don't miss that session. We've also introduced server-side functions to interact with data within Redis in a variety of ways, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later. And lastly, to fulfill requirements of organizations everywhere, we've invested deeply to ensure enterprise-grade capabilities exist well beyond what Redis open source is capable of. Specifically, Redis Enterprise supports maintaining speed at millions of operations per second, high durability as it is built to withstand failure. You can deploy global applications with low local latency for reads and writes using our active-active geo-distribution capability. And it's also cost-effective, delivering support for multi-tenancy and data tiering between RAM and flash. And lastly, it's highly secure, including auditing capabilities to support integration with security information and event management tools. Redis Enterprise takes the strong core of Redis and adds a full set of features that are required to deploy mission-critical, real-time applications at scale. And of course, it's supported by the world's foremost Redis experts here at the home of Redis. One of my favorite stories is from Lemonilla, a health foods marketplace in Asia. Lemonilla, like many of our customers, was using Redis for caching their customers' session information as they browsed Lemonilla's online catalog. But they expanded their use of Redis by building secondary indices on top of the data they were storing within Redis and tapping into the search and query capabilities, bringing faster and more accurate results to their customers. Another favorite is HackerRank, a leader in pre-screening, technical assessments, and remote interviewing solutions for hiring developers. With more than 11 million developers on its platform, they needed an easy-to-use, fast, scalable, and reliable data platform. They chose Redis not only for their caching layer, but for all their real-time use cases, utilizing our native support for JSON to provide low-latency, real-time updates of user data. One of the commonalities you see in our customer stories is the ROI for the business side. But what about for the developers? The folks at Stack Overflow run a lot of surveys with developers, and what the results have to say about developers' working environment and the technologies that developers love to work with is critically important to understand. In particular, one survey asked developers what makes a company more appealing to work for now or in the future. And only one topic came ahead of salary. You want to take a guess at what that is? That's right, developer experience. And while that survey question seems to be focused a bit on the company environment, it absolutely implies to the technologies being used within that environment. At Redis, we're eager to create a joyful experience for developers who build businesses and applications using our technology. I'm going to share with you some of the innovations we're working on to continue to improve that developer experience. First, if you haven't heard of Redis Insight, it's the best GUI for developers working with Redis. We originally launched Redis Insight in 2019, and we've seen so many of you find great success with this new tool. It helps increase productivity by allowing visual browsing and interaction of Redis data. You can look at keys, add keys, delete them, group data, display data in pretty print, hexadecimal, any number of data formats. It's way easier to develop when you can actually see your data. It provides a native CLI within the editor with syntax highlighting. It has log analysis, tracing, debugging, and we're introducing support for recommendations. Everything you want while developing with Redis. So go check it out. You won't regret it. We're continuing to aggressively advance the capabilities of Redis Insight and expand its availability across a wide variety of locations, including FlatHub, Snapcraft, and other app stores. Next, let's talk about client libraries. As such a popular open source technology, we're very lucky to have an amazing community that has made it possible to build applications with Redis in almost any language. If I look today, I think we have over 100 community-created client libraries, and it's a great luxury to have multiple libraries per language to choose from, depending on what you're building and your programming style. However, for new users just starting out, and for experienced developers looking for a consistent experience across languages, including performance, features, capabilities, security, this actually isn't so great. Which library is best for me? How can I tell? So what we've done is to engage more deeply and directly with 6 of the main libraries across the most commonly used programming languages to drive that consistency. We're leaning into contributing and supporting the advancement of these projects. Our goals are to improve the developer ergonomics of building applications with these libraries, to ensure greater consistency in terms of the access to the features and functions available from Redis in lockstep as we continue to advance the capabilities of the platform, and to expand upon the documentation with specific examples of how to use the libraries themselves. And finally, let's talk about programmability. We've had support for server-side processing using scripts written in Lua for quite some time. This provided developers with an easy way to execute application logic on the server by writing Lua scripts passed to Redis over the wire. This is a great choice for implementing simple logic like conditional updates across multiple keys or combining different data types. However, we've had a lot of feedback about challenges with our initial approach. First, network calls can get large, and by having to repeatedly pass the scripts over the wire, it's painful. Even with local caching of scripts, scripting can quickly become complex to manage when you have to maintain consistency of those scripts across hundreds of clients. And due to their localized context, this approach has the potential to limit sharing and code reuse, practices we generally like to encourage. So in Redis 7, we introduced functions as an evolution of scripting, providing first-class support for server-side programmability. Whereas ephemeral scripts are considered part of the applications domain, functions extend the database server itself. Functions can be used to expose a richer API composed of core Redis commands, developed once, loaded at startup, and used repeatedly by a variety of applications and clients. Because functions are part of the database, and therefore declared before use, applications aren't required to load them during runtime. Redis manages functions as an integral part of the database and ensures their availability via persistence and replication. This was a great step forward for making developers' lives easier and extending the power of Redis itself, but we think there's still more we can do. Specifically, Lua isn't a widely adopted scripting language, and many of you have been asking for us to shift towards something more commonly in use. In addition, we've received requests to expand how and when functions are invoked. As a preview in our upcoming Redis 7.2 release, we will introduce triggered functions, which has support for JavaScript as the implementation language, and key-space notifications can be used to invoke these functions. Functions are great because the application logic is persisted server-side, but clients today are still responsible for calling functions for execution. Redis itself can become even more powerful by delivering triggered functions, which eliminates the need for the clients to know anything about the additional business logic being applied. So to summarize, we're continuing our commitment to fulfill the original manifesto of Redis by abhorring complexity, and we are investing deeply to continue to improve the developer experience overall as we continue to advance on the features and capabilities of Redis itself. If you haven't already tried it, go download Redis Insight, join the rapidly growing community of developers who are leveraging the best Redis GUI, and look out for future updates in regards to our continued support of client libraries and the release of triggered functions. There is much more to come. All right, so where should we go from here? I think next I'd like to take a look at the common user journeys for customers and how they use and adopt Redis. As mentioned, Redis is a tremendously popular open source database. Millions of developers love it and have built applications with it. Many of our customers start here with open source, and yet a growing number of digital native developers are actually starting with our cloud offering. But no matter where you start by building something in a language you love and taking advantage of the ease of use, performance, and reliability of Redis. The typical journey includes a small dedicated team developing and deploying their new application to just a few sandbox servers. When those applications are successful, they grow beyond their ability to self-manage Redis or beyond the scope of the free tier of our cloud service. So now what? This is where Redis Enterprise comes in, and there are a number of options. If you want to continue to manage and deploy Redis Enterprise on your own servers, on machines within your favorite cloud service provider, on Kubernetes, or take advantage of a fully hosted and managed cloud service, we've got you covered. We're here to help you on that journey no matter where you start and where you're headed. Redis Enterprise is the answer to moving from open source to allow your business to scale, either continuing on a self-managed experience via software or a fully managed service in the cloud. And due to the popularity of Redis, we know that there are other options out there. Those that claim to be based on Redis open source, or those that are API compatible, from folks who simply deploy, run, and manage Redis open source to API compatible offerings which are based on open source, but most certainly have been forked or altered. So don't be fooled by cheap knockoffs or managed solutions that don't deliver additional value over our open source offering. Some of those have even attempted to replicate what we've built since. But the clear path to success with Redis is with Redis Enterprise. Whether it's Redis's own cloud offering that provides you everything you need in an enterprise-grade solution while maintaining the simplicity you love, or software, we can support whichever path you choose. Now, for those who do want to self-manage Redis Enterprise, we have something special coming your way. As part of our upcoming Redis Enterprise 7.2 release, we've reimagined and updated the cluster management console to provide even more ease of use to those managing and operating Redis Enterprise at scale. And I want to thank those of you who participated in our partner design program and provided invaluable feedback on this effort. Not to be overlooked is that Redis Enterprise is supported and managed by our team of dedicated experts with thousands of deployments and millions of hours of operational expertise. We are the experts, and you will sleep better at night knowing that you have the most knowledgeable and skilled team behind you. We have a lot of customers finding immense value from Redis Enterprise, and actually later today, one of our customers who's experienced this, Omar from Ulta Beauty, is going to share how he rebuilt their new digital storefront as a microservices architecture leveraging Redis Enterprise. So look out for that a little bit later. Well, hopefully you like what you heard in this teaser of what's to come. But before I go, I want to share with you some additional resources and ways that you can engage with us. If you're just getting started with Redis, check out redis.io for core documentation on commands, and soon we'll be introducing language-specific examples that I mentioned earlier. If you're looking to upgrade your skills as a Redis developer or architect, check out Redis University, where we have new classes on things like probabilistic data structures and for operational folks managing Redis at scale. We've also recently introduced a course for .NET developers and revamped the course on using Redis streams. If you're looking to offload management of your Redis infrastructure, definitely check out Redis Cloud and sign up for a free trial today. And finally, please join our Discord server and engage with over 10,000 community members and learn about our upcoming events and possibly some limited edition swag drops. Who knows? And with that, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of Redis Days.
Thank you, Tim. It's great to see how developers can now build faster and better with Redis by having a complete set of tools at their disposal. We also continue to help customers build out their Redis footprint at enterprise scale based on where they are along their journey.